Hello, welcome to Mental Health for You. My name is Randall Crouch. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in practice since 2005. I'm licensed in the state of Florida. I am currently retired. I'm not accepting new patients, and I do this as a means to help the community. Uh, these are offered at no charge, obviously, and I hope you enjoy them. This episode is on anger or mood management, and it's one of the life skills that's often taught by counselors. This course teaches the basics of anger management and can get you started to your journey of becoming a better version of yourself. So, we're going to start by defining anger management. What is anger management? Anger management is a psychological approach designed to help people respond to anger with socially acceptable behavior. In other words, it's the tools you need to help you control your temper. Anger is not an emotion. Anger is not something you're feeling. You're not feeling angry or you're not feeling anger. Anger is the symptom of what you're feeling. So we have to learn how to look deeper into our feelings and identify the true emotions behind the symptoms of the anger. Anger is the expression of underlying emotions, like I just said. I've made a list here on this slide of different emotions. This obviously is not all of them, but it gives you a general idea of what to start looking for. Am I feeling annoyed? Am I confused? Am I insecure? Am I intolerant? Am I frustrated? Am I forgetful? Am I sad? Am I, hungry, tired, hurting, whatever? When you identify that, then you can vocalize that feeling or those feelings instead of utilizing poor anger skills, yelling, screaming, cussing, punching, throwing things, kicking things, etc. Or inverting that into yourself, all of the anger symptoms, pulling those in and shutting down, that does a lot of damage as well. What emotions do you typically feel when you're angry? Make a list of the top 5 emotions you experience when you're angry. You may need to really think about what fueled the anger, from the activating event to exactly what you're feeling inside. Often clients will say they don't know, or they just went from fine to seeing red. Slowing down that process during this introspection can help you slow it down in real time when it happens again. We're going to identify whether it's anger or aggression because they're two different things. Anger is a symptom of the emotion. Aggression is purposeful harm to a person, animal, or property. Hostility is the thought process that fuels aggressive behavior. So it starts with our thoughts. I'm getting upset. I'm going to bash this person in the face. If you're thinking that, the next thing is the action of bashing the person in the face. Instead of stopping the thought, stop. Yeah, I want to bash the person in the face, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to let them know that I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling. Conditioning your behavior. As I always love this about professional athletes, they'll practice their craft until they don't get it wrong. Not until they get it right, but until they don't get it wrong. A musician, a guitarist, they'll play the guitar until they don't make any mistakes ever again on that particular riff or song. That's conditioning. They do it. They don't really think about it anymore. It becomes a habit, which I'm going to talk about later, in the terms of when they grab that guitar or they grab that basketball or that football or whatever. It's a habit. They have muscle memory. They're just going through motions, and they tend to not make those mistakes. We need to condition our behavior the same way, especially for people who struggle with mood management or anger management issues. You condition yourself to not have an angry or a negative response to negative events. People who are quick to anger have conditioned themselves in a similar manner. So you've become used to reacting negatively when something bad happens. Anger becomes the improper solution to the problem instead of a symptom of the emotion. Conditioning your behavior toward positive responses will take time and effort. And I'm going to throw this out there too. It's not going to always be perfect necessarily. If you struggle with anger management, in particular as a child, a teenager, young adult, and you start to work on that, it doesn't mean you're not going to have setbacks. You're going to find yourself boiling up at times, but using these tools, you can stop the rest of that outcome. and recognize I got really, really mad. I got really upset. Um, I was about to punch a wall or whatever I was going to do, and I stopped myself. Give yourself a pat on the back. Recognize that you didn't go over the top with that, but also understand that that's going to happen, and you have to accept that and say, okay, I'm never going to be perfect with this, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to achieve this don't get it wrong mentality. When does anger become a problem? It becomes a problem primarily when it becomes a habit. And a habit is something we do so often we don't think about it. We go back to that conditioning. We don't think about it while we're doing it, it just happens. So if we develop kindness as a habit instead of anger as a habit, it's much easier to not have anger management issues. If you see red, black out, or do or say things without realizing you're doing it, then anger is a problem. Understanding that if you have people around you that you trust that are telling you, hey, you lost it there, you weren't here, you were spaced out, that's the time to really start taking notice and working on your anger issues. I mean, if you hurt others, destroy things, or hurt yourself, your anger is definitely a problem. All right, so myths about anger. Anger is inherited. No, it's not. The behavior is learned. If you saw grandpa get mad and punch a wall, and you saw dad get mad and punch a wall, so you think when I get mad, I need to punch a wall. That's a learned behavior. It's not inherited. It's just not genetic. Great grandpa probably got mad and punched a wall because no one told him any differently. There was no explanation for him on a way to handle his anger any differently. And he just ended up teaching that to his son, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Humans follow social learning, monkey see, monkey do. If your caregivers are prone to anger responses, you're more likely to have similar behaviors. More myths about anger. Anger leads to aggression. Only if you allow it. Anger does not always lead to aggression. You make that choice to take it to that next step. Aggression is purposeful damage to people, animals, or property. Anger is a symptom of the feelings that you have, but you have a choice to make. Do I destroy this thing, or do I take a deep breath, get myself composed, and discuss what I'm feeling? Aggression gets you what you want. Aggression is not assertiveness. Assertiveness uses languages that express a fact, a feeling, a fair request. Aggression uses fear and threat of harm. Now, again, I'm being totally honest. Will aggression get you what you want? Most of the time, yeah, it absolutely will. You can terrorize someone into obeying you, if you will. But that's not a level of respect, that's a level of fear. And that may get you some passive aggressive behaviors from that person or those people as well. And that's not the way we want to live in a civilized society. Anger needs to be vented or it becomes toxic. Okay, so I put on this that there was this whole line of thinking, in particular in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that if you let out your aggression in a physical manner, like punching a bag, screaming into a pillow, whatever it was. And I remember there even when I was in school in the early 2000s, they would talk about how you could have a plastic wiffle ball bat and a pillow to help your clients let out their aggression. I'm aware that there are rage rooms and there's, you can go in and you can destroy stuff and people feel great about that. But if you develop that as a habit, that's what you condition. You condition that reaction. When I get mad, I need to destroy something. When I get mad, I need to hit. And we have to change that thought process. People become conditioned to have an aggressive reaction to their anger when they try these or similar techniques. We want to retrain our brain and our thought process to have kindness, to have logic instead of having aggression. 3 reasons we have negative emotions. Okay, this is from Pema Chandra. I'm giving her all the credit. Awesome author, and she talks about this in a series called "Don't Bite the Hook," which is about mood management. It's a great little talk if you want to listen to it. So the reasons we have negative emotions: you didn't get what you wanted, you got what you didn't want, or kind of a combination of both. You didn't get what you wanted and you got what you didn't want. You didn't get what you wanted. Let's say you wanted a cheese pizza, but they brought out pepperoni. Say you don't like pepperoni. So you got a pizza, you wanted a pizza, but you wanted a cheese pizza. You wanted it plain. You didn't want pepperoni on it. So you get a little frustrated about that. There's that word. You don't get angry, you get frustrated. The anger comes out when you yell at the waitstaff. I didn't order this dang pizza. You need to bring me the right one. What are you, an idiot? Or you don't know how to do your job? Being mean, being aggressive like that. That's the anger symptoms. Instead of, hey, I ordered a cheese pizza and this has pepperoni. I don't like pepperoni. Could you make me another one? Absolutely, they will. Kill them with kindness. Scenario 2. Hey, you got what you didn't want. You wanted a burger, but you got pizza instead. You ordered a burger. I don't know where the pizza came from. Some people get really upset about that. They allow that to impact how they react instead of, I think you brought me the wrong order. Can you check for me? Again, we kill them with kindness. All right, scenario 3. You didn't get what you want and got what you didn't want. So you want a tie, but you agreed to go out with your friends and for a burger. So you ordered a burger. You thought it was a beef burger, but your friend chose some swanky new restaurant and you got a beetroot burger instead. You're not happy about it at all. Again, we're going to express our feelings about that. This is not what I want. I'm not eating this. You guys go ahead and eat, and I'm going to go do something different. Back to my dog. I chose dogs for a reason because dogs have a variety of temperament based on their owners. And it really is a good symbol of our own emotional state. So is your dog, your inner person, is he sweet and playful? Is he mean or aggressive? Is he both or neither? But keep in mind, you're not a dog. You're a human being, and you have the capability to control and manage your emotions in a civil way. The only control we have in life is in choices we make. We don't control our thoughts. We don't control our emotions. We control how we act on them. So going back to what I said earlier, you're getting upset. Your thought comes in and says, I'm just going to bust this person in the face. You didn't put that thought there, but you control what happens to that thought. Do I act on that thought in the way that I punch the person in the face? Do I stop the thought? Stop. No, I'm not going to hit anybody. I'm going to say, I really didn't like what you're doing there. You need to stop. Move on. Do I internalize it, which is not healthy either, and walk away? Okay. So when we understand that, we don't control our emotions, we don't control our thoughts, we control how we act on them. That's key. That's really key to anger management. All right. Next slide says make positive choices. This is why I tell my kid clients, when you're going through life, you need to stop, think, and act, and you need to make positive choices, things that are good for you, for the environment, for the people around you. Good meaning healthy. Okay. All right, moving on. I encourage my clients to keep an anger journal, and it's pretty simple. And this will help you track your emotional ups and downs. And everybody has them. So, don't read into that too much. If you're like, well, I'm always here, I'm always angry, I'm always up here. We're tracking that so you can learn how to move more towards a more zen and peaceful existence. All right, we need to know our triggering events, or some books will call them activating events. So we're going to make a list of the things that trigger anger. You're going to identify the cues to your anger. What are your physical reactions? Do you clench your fist? Does your jaw get clenched? Do you turn red? Do you get hot? Do you start to cry? Do you clench your teeth? What are you doing physically? What are your behavioral reactions? What are you saying? What are you doing? Are you pacing? Does your voice get higher? Does it get louder? What's going on with that? What are your emotional reactions? Identify the feelings involved in the anger event. So again, what are you feeling? We're gonna go back to that. I tell my clients to why it to death. WHY. We're gonna why this to death. Why am I angry? I'm angry because I ordered a burger and I got a pizza and I didn't want a pizza. Okay, how does that make you feel? It makes me frustrated because I ordered a burger and I got a pizza. It's frustration. So when the waitstaff comes back, I'm really frustrated right now because I ordered a burger and you brought me a pizza. What's going on? It can be corrected. What are the cognitive reactions? What are you thinking about before and during and even after the anger event? So when we talk about this a little more later about introspection and going back and working through the event so you can improve if you find yourself in that situation again. All right, document your anger levels. So we can do like a simple scale 1 to 10. You can do 1 to 5, whatever you want. Identify the activating event or the triggering event. What triggered the anger? What was it? Identify how you reacted. Were you positive? Were you negative? Were you neutral? And be honest with yourself. If you did a good job with it, pat yourself on the back. And I did a great job with that. That's what I got to start to do. Identify the things you could do differently, and that's if that same trigger arises. So again, we're using this as a learning opportunity to say, hey, this behavior I had is not acceptable, so I'm going to do things this way instead. Anger control plans. Make a plan that works best in controlling your anger. Take a time out, step away from the event, practice mindfulness. And I'm going to talk about mindfulness in a little bit here. We take a time out. I'm going to talk about that a little more as well. We want to have the maximum time out of 20 minutes. All right. You should easily be able to get your emotions back under control within 20 minutes of the activating event. If you can't do that, you got to keep working on it. You're choosing not to do that. I should say it that way. And that's that choice that you're making. All right, take a time out. It's a bit cliche, count to 10. It may work for you, it may not. Again, some people can't get their self calmed down that quickly. Get away from the situation. Use the time to meditate. I say most people can fully self-soothe in under 20 minutes. They absolutely can. Everyone has the capability of doing that unless they have unless they're like on an autism spectrum or something like that. They have some precipitating factor, traumatic brain injury, something like that. So most people can fully self-soothe, and they don't really need to go more than 20 minutes. Meditate. All right. I personally love meditation. I know most counselors do, because meditation allows us to remain in a very calm state a majority of the time. So meditation is very simple. I know I teach this to clients often, and it's like what you see on TV is overblown meditation. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but it's pretty complex for a lot of people. You go sit in some dark room and you cross your legs and put your fingers up and you chant. Nah, come on. That's all good and well, but it's not realistic for people who have to work and drive and have chaos in their life. So I like personally doing something called walking meditations and breathing meditations. And those are exactly what they sound like. While I'm walking and doing whatever I'm doing, I can focus on and visualize things that bring me peace. While I'm breathing, if I'm actively breathing, I can breathe in, I am strong and stable. Breathing out, I'm a big mountain. I can do breathing affirmations. Okay. There's a great book about this. It's called Peace is Every Step, and another book called Peace is Every Breath. PEACE, written by a guy named Thich Nhat Hanh. And they're great books on meditation and mindfulness. All right. Picture something that makes you happy and feel safe. And I'm going to talk about this down a little later in this episode called flooding, which we're going to the next thing and use the flooding technique. I'm going to talk about this flooding technique, and we use visualizations to help get ourselves calmed down. Flooding the senses, we jumped right into that. All right. So the best way to recognize the flooding is you're going to flood all of your senses with your visualization. I use in this example here the beach. So you go to the beach, in your mind, you see the beach, you smell the beach, you feel the beach, you taste the beach, you hear the beach. Everything is flooding your senses. What happens to our brain at that point is it realizes, hey, time out. We're at the beach. The beach is our safe place. The beach is great. If I'm at the beach, nothing bad can happen. And it shuts down all the chemicals that are amping you up. Okay. And it's pretty fast. That's why I go back to this 20-minute thing. This should not take 20 minutes for you to self-soothe and get yourself calmed down if you're actively using all these techniques that I'm teaching here. Go to your beach and self-soothe. If it's not a beach, maybe you hate the beach, use whatever you want. I once had a client tell me that she pictured herself running naked through a wheat field. Whatever works for you. Okay? It doesn't really matter. Picture the thing where you feel safe and that makes you feel calm, and flood your senses with that. All right, step away from the event. If possible. 99% of the time is possible. I know sometimes it's not. Take a 20-minute timeout, especially if there's direct conflict with another person. And again, we're not just taking a time out to ruminate about what I'm going to do to this person. We stop that thought. Stop. Get myself calmed down. Do some deep breathing exercise. Do progressive relaxation. Do the flooding technique. Do whatever I need to do that's socially acceptable to get myself calmed down. Go for a walk, meditate, exercise, journal, practice deep breathing, whatever it is that's working for you that's socially acceptable again. I don't encourage you to drink or use drugs, to use that as a crutch to get yourself calmed down, because that becomes a conditioned response to anger. All right. Come back after 20 minutes and civilly work through the conflict via assertive communication techniques. I talk about assertive communication techniques a little bit in this episode, but more so in the Adulting 101 series. And if you look at that, the previous episode, you'll see how to use assertive communication. All right. Practice mindfulness. I love mindfulness. Mindfulness is being in this split-second moment. It's keeping your thoughts in the here and now. You don't dwell on the past or the future, even the immediate past or immediate future. What happened a second ago is no longer here. The past is an illusion. It's not here anymore. It was there. It's not here. We just simply need to retrain our brain to be here and now. Okay? Time goes by more slowly when you're in the moment. When you're in the here and now, time goes by more slowly. Trust me, as you get older, you want time to go by more slowly. So it's a good thing. It makes life fuller and things seem to be simpler when we're in the moment. Side note, practicing mindfulness will eliminate most anxiety. Progressive relaxation. All right. I'm gonna leave this slide up. I'm not gonna read it because it's a pretty common practice. If you've been in therapy before, I'm sure that your therapist has taught you progressive relaxation. We're going to the next slide. Progressive relaxation is continued. The ABCD model. This is a model that helps you conceptualize anger. You can break down each step or component of your anger, and you may be able to better manage that anger. A is the activating event. What happened? We just look at that. Then we're going to look at how we can identify these events before. I often talk about putting your trigger guard down. Activating event is also a trigger. If we can put our trigger guards down, if you know something causes you stress, you prepare yourself before you put yourself in that situation to know. Beliefs, identify the beliefs about the anger event. And again, I have clients that I try to get you to look at these definitive words that are in your head. She always does this. He always does this. They never do this. I always do this. I never do this. Everyone's always against me. Nobody loves me. Whatever it is, these beliefs are compromising your ability to have a positive emotional event instead of the negative emotional event that's coming out. Are your beliefs irrational? Yeah. If they use definitive terms, it's irrational 100% of the time. Definitive terms are irrational. So, because nobody is always something, never always, whatever. You can't do that. You shut that down again. Stop. It's not true. And you challenge that belief in your head and you work through it. C, the emotional consequences. What do you feel after the event? And I can tell you, and so many times clients will say, after I yelled at her or after, I punched the wall or whatever, I felt really low. I felt like a slime ball. And that's shame that's kicking in. We talk about, is there guilt or shame involved? You're shamed about your behavior. You feel guilty about what you've done or what you said. So going through what was the topic of your self-talk, you can journal all this. Going back to the anger journal, you journal these things in there and it helps you get better at it. All right, D, dispute. Take a close look at your beliefs and expectations as they pertain to the event. Are they irrational or unrealistic? So if you have an expectation of your 2-year-old to clean their room and they didn't clean it spotlessly, is that an unrealistic expectation? Probably, yeah. Unless your kid's like a savant. Probably, not. Same scenario. Did you have an expectation of your 15-year-old to keep the room clean? Probably unrealistic when you understand how the teenage brain works. So asking yourself that, is this an irrational or is it unrealistic? And if it is, how do I let that go? I process that. I think about it. Could you justify them if they were the receiver instead of the giver? So you're basically putting yourself in their shoes. All right. One of my favorite things that I teach little kids starting out, I end up teaching a lot of adults. And again, this is in my Adulting 101 episodes, is thought stopping and stop, think, and act. So and I personally use this every day throughout the day, multiple times. Okay. Picture a stop sign. You put the stop sign up here and stop. You don't do anything but take a breath. You breathe in, you breathe out, and then you're processing, what do I need to do? And this is where the think comes in. Is what I want to do or say positive, helpful, necessary, and respectful? And we're not going to justify that, by the way. Somebody needs to tell this person they're being an a-hole. No, they don't. Big deep breath. I need to put the toxic people out of my life and move past it. Okay, we think about that, we move past. Act. Is your reaction positive, helpful, necessary, respectful? Again, if it's not all those things, remove yourself from the situation. Bite your tongue, walk away. Don't justify your anger. Don't allow the actions of others to dictate your emotional state. Don't. That makes you a puppet and they are your puppet master. And if that doesn't piss you off, it really should. So, brief power and control here. A lot of times, throughout my practice, I never treated violent offenders. Okay, I didn't treat sexual offenders, violent offenders, pedophiles, any of that, because I wanted to treat the people who had been on the receiving end of that instead. So I wanted to be able to help people who had gone through those traumas to be strong and get through their lives, right? However, I gave the power and control wheel to, many, many couples, people who suffered traumas, et cetera, et cetera. So here, what I would encourage you to do is to look at this, really look at it, read through it, identify anything that you may be doing. If you even think for a moment that you're doing any of this, you can ask your partner, ask someone else, am I doing any of these things? It's a great piece to slip in front of your partner and say, hey, what are we doing here? Are these things that we can do that are that we can make better? Are there things on here that we're doing that we can eliminate? Because this is a bad habit to get into. And the power control is caused typically by very damaged self-esteem. So the person has a very damaged self-esteem and they feel the need to have power control over other people. Particularly, it's men wanting power control over women, but it can be women, it can be men on men, it can be lots of different scenarios there. Communication. There are different types of communication behaviors. Aggressive, we talked about this earlier. You seek what you want through fear and intimidation. Will that get you what you want? Yeah, but it may not get you what you want too at the same time. I always had this saying, you never piss off the person that's making your pizza. Um, you don't know what they're going to do to it. It's why? Why would you take that chance? And you may think, well, if they do something to it, I'm going to hurt them. Yeah, maybe if you know, but you may not know. You may not know what they do. Um, and keep that in mind. You kill them with kindness again instead. Passivity. This is almost just as dangerous as aggression when you think about it. And if you're a doormat, the world wipes their feet on you. That builds and builds and builds. I used to use an analogy of a Coke bottle that gets shaken, and you're the Coke bottle, and you're passive, and the world's shaking you up, and eventually that cap is going to blow off, and you and everybody around you is going to get soaked in Coke. And we see that it happens. A person snaps, and they kill their partner, or they, whatever. We see it all the time. That's a passive person who's allowed that to build and build and build. Passive aggressive, you're petty and vindictive, but not directly confrontational. Most people, me included, do not like this type of behavior at all. It's very disrespectful. So if you have people in your life that do that, eliminate them from your life. It's not worth it. And then there's assertiveness. You state what you need with confidence. Again, I need this. I'm not yelling at you about it. I'm not gonna come in and say, well, if you feel like doing this, you could. Your boss doesn't say, hey, if you feel like working your shift tomorrow, why don't you come in and work your shift? You say, hey, I see you at 8 a.m. Right? It's assertive. Big difference. 3 F's of assertive communication. Again, I taught this back in the Adulting 101 series. It's a very simple, easy way to learn how to communicate effectively. State the fact. This is what I heard you say, or this is what I saw you do. You state the feeling. When I saw you do that or heard you say that, it made me feel however it made you feel. May need a little introspection there to understand what we were feeling, but you take that time. If that's the 20 minutes, I'm really upset right now, I got to go for a walk. You're thinking about that. How was I feeling, right? Then you come back with the fair request. When I heard you say blah, 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 it made me feel blah, 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 blah. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't say that to me. Okay. When it doesn't work. So, what happens? I use the fact, feeling, fair request. It didn't work. Fact, feeling, fair request or assertive communication works with people who respect you. Period. They love you. In my adulting series, I talk about the 3 types of people: diamond rings, fake diamond rings, and plastic rings. A diamond ring will listen to you. They don't want to hurt you. They don't want you to hurt them. So they'll listen when you're telling them, this is what you did to me. A fake diamond ring will gaslight. They will make it seem like they didn't do it, that it's your fault, that you misinterpreted it, whatever it is. Walk away. They're toxic. Assertive communication works with most situations with most people. It'll work with plastic ring people. It'll work with diamond ring people. It will not work with fake diamond rings or toxic people. All right. In those situations, you walk away. Disagreements are not worth prison, injury, or death. They're not. It's not. You're not going to change that person. So I hope you enjoyed this anger management course. I hope that you have the tools. You're learning the tools. You can start to implement them and put them into practice. On a closing thought, a person who never gets angry or never shows anger towards others, the expectation of the people around them is that that person will never show anger. Okay? The person who gets angry around others, the expectation for the people around them is that that person will always be angry. All right? There's that definitive term. The person with anger issues who starts to work on that, they have that expectation again that they will always be angry. And this expectation can go forever. And if you have a setback in front of those people around you, the expectation is, there you go. I told you they were going to do this. So you have to keep that in mind. You're working on the premise of, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be kind. But let's go back to the kind person, the calm person. If that calm person loses their temper one time, then the expectation becomes that they will lose their temper. So we have to keep in mind that anger management is important. So we always have this kindness forward attitude. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe, and I will see you next week with another lesson.